Yes, yes. I realized. Hold on, YouTube's on in the background. I'm gonna get rid of that. There. Oh gosh, it's okay. It didn't double up. Yes. Hello, everybody. Hello. It's unusual to see you all here on a Thursday. This is usually just a Patreon stream for VIPs in the background, but today we decided we're going to go live for everybody. So welcome everybody to the show. This is High and Homegrown. I'm Macky from Percy'sGrowroom.com. Blah 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 blah. I'm sure you all know who we are by now. And yeah, we're going to have Breeder Steve come and join us shortly. But usually, as I said, this is usually a Patreon thing. And I usually go live 15 minutes before the guest arrives and then just chat some shit for a little bit. So here I am. Just, sticking to the routine as I do. What's up, Fire Top, Adam Bomb, Mad Dog, Cheese Meister. What's up? Who else do we have here? Old Man, Breeder Steve's in the chat. What's up, Breeder Steve? Mr. Smile, Hi Man, Nicholas Haggy. Yeah, man, is he still in the chat? That was a while ago when the messages went out there. Yeah, so remember the other day when I was speaking to Brandon Rust and we were talking about Super Nintendos? I decided I've had enough. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to just look at Super Nintendos on the internet and be like, oh, I want one of those so bad. I fucking bought one, didn't I? That's right. That's right. In a box. It's got Super Mario All-Stars. It's got 4 games on it. Mario 1, 2, 3, and the Lost Levels. You know what I'm saying? Should be here on Monday. So, I've been cleaning my console collection today. That's been my mission. Anybody out there like playing on the old school consoles like me? You know what I'm saying? Can't wait. SNES will be here by Monday. I've wanted one for many years. You know, I've obviously had one as a kid, but, I don't know where that is now. That was a long time ago. So, it's going to be cool. But it's only got one controller, so I'm thinking I'm going to need to buy a second controller with Mario Kart so I can kick my kid's ass at Mario Kart. You know what I mean? You got CRT? No, I don't. My TV, it does take these consoles. I've played all these consoles on my TV. It's like an old TV, but it's not CRT. But I would love to get a CRT TV. Because, that's the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? There you got the Duck Hunter on the NES. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'd love to get that. I've got NES as well. I just don't have Duck Hunt on it. I've just got to mute my Discord because you might have heard it ping then. There we go. Is everything working okay? I think so. We do have the zoom up. Yeah, to have a CRT TV, it would be nice, but they take up so much room, don't they? They are massive. Not just like screen, because the screen isn't massive. Oh, god damn. How many CRTs were thrown away in skips? Yeah, when I go to the tip, there's a refuge collection place, whatever they call it, where you go throw away stuff. But they've got a whole section there with CRT TVs in it. And I'm sure I could pick one up and bring it home, find out what's wrong with it and fix it. Because they're fixable, technology from back then. It's reasonably easy to fix. You just got to know what parts broke and replace it. So I could do it. I could get a CRT TV. Man, my mother probably has one. I should ask her, really. Be like, I'll swap you this nice LCD TV here for that old CRT. She'll be like, are you crazy? Have you been smoking that weed again? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, he'll be worth it. But where do I put the fucking thing? That's the thing, man. It's like you can get these adapters. And I don't need one, obviously, because as I said, I can plug them into my TV has an aerial socket, and I can play all of the consoles on my TV. So it's not a massive problem. But I'd love to put it on my projector. You know what I mean? You can get them little adapters that you can plug the old school stuff in and convert it to HDMI or something. I don't know. The magic tech. And you'll be able to plug it in and they could play all these consoles. Imagine, because I've got an Atari 2600 as well. It's got the original Pac-Man, like the first Pac-Man. Imagine playing that on a projector, on the wall, instead of these tiny screens we used to play on. Man, that would be so fucking cool. But yeah, crazy. Who else arrived? Mouse Chronic arrived. Jibby420, what's up? Chilbert's arrived. What's up, Chilbert? Anybody else? I saw somebody mention John. John Lewis, there's John Lewis. What's up, bro? Thanks for joining us today. Yeah. As you can see, this is a public stream rather than just a Patreon session. which we usually have on the Thursdays. So yeah, and just in case anybody wants to do this on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do it often. You know, we try and get a couple in every week, but it's hard to get guests nowadays because we've had everybody on the show numerous times. So it's yeah, and I try and find new faces, but you know, we try and do at least one interview every week, but they're usually private, you know, the private streams. What else is going on? Mark Reish has arrived. What's up? I'd like to see Graham on the show. You mean Graham Hancock? Yeah, I'd like to get him back. I think I'll try again, but it's just difficult to get him on. Because we're living in the UK, you know, it's still cannabis is still illegal here, so he doesn't want to come on the show and talk about cannabis, you know, and he's just obviously skeptical because you know what you know how the media treats him anyway. For him to be associated with cannabis, it might just cause trouble for him, but he doesn't need, you know. But yeah, I'd love to get him back on the show, chat some shit with him, because you know, great guy. Great, to spare the time that he did to come onto the show that one time was enough. But I'll drop him an email and see what happens. You know, see what happens, man. What do you get by asking? You know, you don't lose anything if they say no. You're in the same position as they were in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah, we had Graham Hancock on. I don't know, a couple of years ago now. It's been a while. I have his phone number and everything. Like the one time when I was organised the interviews, he's like, "Here's my phone number. Call me on Tuesday, and we'll figure it out." And so I call up the number he gave me, and his wife answers. I'm like, "Is Graham there?" She's like, "Was you given this number?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Macky from High and Homegrown." I'm just speak to Graham. Fuck, awkward. But yeah, man, awesome. You know, great interview, and it's good for him to spare the time. But it would be epic to get him back on the show. That would be cool. I wonder if Tommy Chong wants to come back on as well, because we've had Tommy on loads of times, but he hasn't been on for a while because he stopped doing podcast interviews. He hasn't done it for a while, but I should reach out to him and see if we can get Tommy Chong back on the show. That would be very cool. Yeah. You should ask him if he looked into the Griffin Warrior. I don't know what that is. Love your Shishkabari. That's speaking to Steve, I assume. Steve is in the waiting room now. Let's just make sure that we're all ready to go. Are we all ready to go for this? Have you all shared it? Huh? Have you all shared it? All hit the like button and subscribed if you're... Well, you can't talk in the chat unless you're a subscriber. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Everybody do that. Zelenzi is there in the chat. Griffin Warrior is an ancient Greek king that was discovered in 2015. Okay, nice. Most of my research time right now is going into that three-eye atlas. You're keeping an eye on that. Very cool. Very cool. Ooh. Gold and silver and gemstones, you say? I like those kind of things. Yeah, man. Cool. I'd have to check it out. But yeah, seems like an interesting topic. But that three-eye atlas, very cool. Very cool. I'm loving talking about that. But I think it's time to get Breeder Steve in. We'll leave him a couple more minutes because we want to wait as close to 9 as we can. I'm just eager to get in and see what Breeder Steve's been saying. It's been a while since he's been on the show. Do you all have drinks? We're all on the Sober October, everybody. No alcoholic beverages. So I'm here with my pint glass of water again, which is usually filled with a nice, refreshing alcoholic beverage, but not today. No cannabis today either, because, you know, Sober October. We're doing it. 9 days through. Oh, we're doing good. I think we're ready to go then. I will hit the record button.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Are we all ready? His insight into the last labyrinth. I like that labyrinth shit. You know, I like catacombs as well. You know, and people talking about the catacombs in France, man. That would be so cool to go and see that, but it's so easy to get lost in there as well. But anyway, let's not keep Breeder Steve waiting any longer. Let's get him in and see what he's talking about. Let's have a chat with Steve. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube talk as we do. Here we go. Connected to audio. There he is. Nice.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing, Breeder Steve?
Good, Macky. How are you, man?
Yeah, same old. Surviving here in the airstrip one, as we call it now.
Well, I'm crazy. I'm glad you're keeping on.
Yeah, you have to trade best. So how's things for you? How's the pool weed this year?
Yeah, it's so far so good, but this far north is really a crapshoot. 50 degrees north and 500 meters altitude. I've really got about half a day of direct sun too, so it's not perfect.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, it's just a hoot still to do it. And at the very least, you'll end up with something to make some hash or edibles with. And if it finishes nice, you keep some nice flour. The weather's been really good. We've probably had the nicest September in who knows how long. And October started out strong too, but in the next little while, the next 5 days or something, it's going to get cold and wet. So they're
Damn.
not done yet. There's some that are pretty close, and some usually I wouldn't take anything here before Halloween
Hmm.
because I kind of do what I call cheater outdoor. I've got a south facing porch in the backyard, so I keep the plants in pots so that come fall before the rain starts,
Hmm.
I drag them under the porch. And by then, the sun's low enough in the sky to my south that the sun really comes in under the porch during the day, and then through the afternoon at least, and it keeps the rain off. So the buds stay dry, so you can really extend the season. That's why I call it cheater outdoor because it's totally outdoor. There's no doors, there's no lights, there's no fans, there's no walls, but there is no direct rain hitting them. So
Hmm.
other than like humid air, that's okay. If the plants are healthy too, they're generally pretty resistant, and some genetics more so than others. But it's always a blast. Like that's why I love your show high on homegrown, because I mean it's all about the homegrown.
Hmm.
When you get back to it, when you go pro at something, it often sucks the life out of something you love. Like
Yeah,
I used
absolutely.
to make wine. Great, it was a lot of fun. Once I opened the shop and had the license and was running a wine business, now it's a whole other ballgame. You're not just making wine anymore.
Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
same with weed. Like when you're growing it for your own pleasure, that's one thing. But when it comes with monthly reporting requirements and audits and all this layers of complexity and bureaucracy, most of which strikes you as asinine and
Hmm.
just becomes soul destroying to go through the motions. So as much as I love doing large scale pro stuff, I'm also really happy just to stay home and do homegrown. So I like to. So far, that's all I've done in Canada for in this millennium. Even I haven't been active here, but I like having the projects abroad, whether it's South America or Asia or
Hmm.
Africa or Europe, and then just sort of managing remotely. And then when I can, when the timing's right, if we're doing selections and stuff, then it makes sense for me to be there, and that's fun. But once you've had some place up and going for 5 years, the people don't need your day-to-day input on how to
Yeah.
grow. You get through that in the first year or two, and then they're pretty much on course. So I'd like to test the people too to see who's got similar palate. So I'll lay out say 10, 20 samples, and I'll smell them and taste them and make my own notes, and then I'll ask the potential people at the facility, amongst the different workers and stuff. I'll say, okay, smell these and make notes and tell me what you think they smell like. And if they go, this one smells like caramel and this one smells like lemon and that one smells like lang lang flowers, and I'll be like, yeah, that's what I had. They're right on my palate. So
Yeah,
I like
nice.
to
Yeah,
find,
good plan.
yeah. So it's been, really fun. And my partner Phi in Thailand, she is just a wonderful person and super hardworking and just super kind and honest as the day is long. And absolutely thrilled to call her a partner and a friend. And she's done such a great job in Thailand that I don't have to go as much. We had a hemp license before they'd done their big descheduling. So we were with the hemp license, we had to have the fences and the cameras and all that stuff. And we were pushing it because we were only allowed to do low THC sort of CBD hemp types and stuff. But I said, that's okay. Let's get set up with that and just test the facilities and train the people, start making clones and get them through the motions of it. And we were gambling on the descheduling coming. So we'd got a very big head start. So we were like up to, we had greenhouses 2 years before they descheduled basically. And so when they, we were pushing them to get a breeding license because we wanted to acclimatize some of the CBD lines using native stuff, and the native stuff was over the hemp limit, and they
Mm.
would, they'd only given the breeding license to, like there was a Royal Project, and then I think some either hospitals or hospitals had like oil processing licenses, and the military had some of the licenses that could do THC. It was really strange, it's still strange and it's still morphing constantly. But the last time the inspector came and we'd asked him, we said, hey, we really want the breeding license. We'll destroy the flower, but we need to be able to use these other types to breed in, resistance to the local pressures. And the guy said, I'll just do whatever you want. I've got to look for a new job because they're gonna kill the inspector's job. So he's like, I ain't be out of work. So he says, no, nobody's gonna visit you now. Because it was during a 90
All
day
right. Mm.
period where the proposed law goes into the Royal Gazette. So it has like 90 days people to be commentary period basically before it gets made official. So so that was happening, and that was spearheaded by a guy, a Newton, who just used his first name for now, but he was kind of the prince of pot politics, let's say, and know, he was the real proponent. And I saw when you invited me, you said, "Oh, how things have rose and fall over there, and how things have changed." And I think you got to blink and you miss it.
Hmm.
It was almost wide open. Like it was compared to anywhere else, it was wide open. It wasn't totally wide open, but they did a great job in that they just simply descheduled. And then they had an app called Look Ganja, which I think means plant ganja. And if you're a Thai citizen, you download Pluk Ganja, stand in your garden and drop a pin and declare how many plants you had, and boom, you're legal. That's it. It wasn't,
Wow.
and there wasn't a limit on how many plants. You just had to be forthright and say how many you had. You could
Wow.
put
Cool.
21,000. 2.1 million. Like nobody cared how many plants. It was just the fact that you declared that you had them. And and then beyond that, there wasn't a lot of control via the sales. And then they started to license the dispensaries. And there was a bunch of licensed and unlicensed dispensaries, but there still wasn't much in the way of quality control on what was entering the system. And then they started to say, okay, it had to come from licensed growers that were not just on ganja, but they would have another layer of officiality. And I'm really not the biggest expert because I wasn't the one firsthand doing it. My partner was, but I was kind of getting the feedback of, of the process. And I've talked to lots of other people and I follow the news and whatnot there. But so now, well, let's say not now, but a couple of months ago, there was a new government formed, which is a fairly frequent occurrence over there. Like some countries, they've got three leaders in the course of 2 years or whatever. So anyway, there was to make a long story short, there was an anti-cannabis group had the power, and they said we want to backtrack on this quite a bit, but really not all the way. They were going to go back. If they'd gone forward 3 steps, they were going to go back one.
Hmm.
And basically, the things they were going to implement were it was going to be medical only with a prescription, and that those prescriptions would probably be capped at 30 grams a month, I think, maybe 50 grams a month, or some arbitrary number. It would be very
Hmm.
hard to enforce too, because they didn't have any system in place to say how many places you've been to,
Yeah.
you know? So it was all just stupid. But there was a list of things that you could say, like I have insomnia or this or that. So you could
Hmm.
have a pretty quick consult and get your prescription and buy some stuff. So you just have to declare you had one of the five categories of conditions or something. So, and the other thing that would change would be that those licensed dispensaries that were buying from licensed growers would now need to show approved COA. So they were gonna, there was no required COA before, and they do have a huge problem with lab quality over there. But aside from the problem with lab quality, now they're the first guy that was our friend Newton there that was the first one that pushed the cannabis through. When he was a minister of health, he is currently, as of like a week ago or something, he is maybe 2 weeks now. He is the new president or prime minister, for crying out loud. I can't remember. I'm a little big, but
Yeah.
he's in charge now, so he's got the top job. So he's of course said, no, we're not going to go ahead with all these crazy restrictions that were. Like, the other thing was the growers would have to show that they had Thai GACP, which is not the same as GMP. There's GACP is good agricultural collection practices.
Right.
And then there's a Thai GACP as well, which is their own specific version of that. And that's what
Mm.
you have to have now to sell. But it it's going to be, they were going to make a more expensive licensing regime and stuff, but wasn't going to be very inclusive, and it was going to block the little guys because the little guys couldn't all get the Thai GACP is fairly expensive and takes some time, and a little bit of
Mm.
capex upfront spending to have filtered water to feed your plants. You can't just give it straight from the pond and all this stuff, which is too bad because I would rather give it water straight from the pond, at least
Mhm.
subterranean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
either way, you got to have potable water, so you're not spraying E. coli on the plants or something. Fair
Okay.
enough, I get that part. But the now you just have to have, as far as I understand, and none of it's even written in stone because it's like they were about to pass these amendments, and then within very short time, like a couple of months, then the new president or prime minister, whatever he is now, Newton, he came back and said, no, no, we're not going to block everybody from doing it. They just have to have COAs that meet certain standards to show that they're clean. And then the smaller players can still be involved. So it's really in a constant state of flux.
Yeah.
But also, the other notable thing was if there's going to be consumption on site, that there has to be a doctor on site. And the doctor doesn't have to be a Western medicine doctor. It can be Thai traditional medicine. Um, there was a couple classes of health professionals that fit in, I think, so that they counted as the person on site, so that you were safely ripping your bamboo bong in the upstairs lounge or whatever. There has to be a medical professional on site. I don't quite get it, but hey,
Hmm.
I don't make the rules.
So is that like
If I'm
any
lucky, I get to
consumption
influence
lounge
them. But they're Go
any
ahead.
consumption lounge needs a doctor essentially, just for a
Yeah,
consumption
that's
lounge?
right. They
It's
need
weird.
a medical professional of some sort.
Mm.
There's a few different classes. So, uh, like I don't know, maybe a nurse. It might be kind of think like the Prop 215 or something. In California where they had, you might get a note from a nurse or something, and you're good to go. I don't know exactly what the details are, and I
Mm.
think a lot of people are unclear because it has been changing so rapidly. Like this will be, whatever the year started out with was kind of the evolution of the old system. When I say old, just 3 years old or whatever, since they descheduled. Because even once they descheduled, first they descheduled, took everything away, and then they gradually started bringing things in to tighten it up and tighten it up. But rather than try and start super tight, they just threw out everything. And grandma and grandpa were standing at the side of the highway, in traffic, selling beer cups with 30 centimeter plants in them, just walking down the traffic jam, just selling plants in the window. Like it was just wide open and inclusive and beautiful and normalized. And even, restaurants where the people don't smoke weed or anything, but just to sort of show they were on side, I guess, they planted weed in their front planters, like even along the sidewalks right in the city. There was just decorative cannabis planted everywhere. And to me, that's when it really has crossed the line from being a tightly controlled, like plutonium or something, or worse, to okay, now you accept that it's just a decorative plant. It's a flavorful herb, and it's got some medicinal benefits and pleasing side effects.
Yeah.
Just it's just a herb, and they've
Hmm.
used cannabis in their chicken soup for thousands of years. And then they did know it was just a herb, but then they got the reefer madness injected into their society, and hasn't it didn't work out well for a long time. A lot of people were getting very severe punishments for cannabis over there, even though Thailand was also famous for being an export country. Thai sticks made it everywhere people smoke weed almost.
Hmm.
So yeah, anyway, I mean, it's just not settled. So I wouldn't say it was really like a rise and fall of cannabis. It's been like speeding ahead and the odd pothole. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's the odd pothole, but you're still hurtling forwards. So,
See.
and as far as the seed breeding station, which we really are now, there's absolutely zero effect on our seed breeding operation. The laws
Right. Okay.
didn't touch seeds, like it really didn't make a difference for that. Well, my
Yeah.
partners have the sense part of the operation that they keep, anything from the nursery sales like trays of clones or flowers. That's 100% theirs. I just half and half on the seed business with them. So the seeds have they're unaffected entirely, and we can already get phytosanitary certificates and export the seeds to legal countries. So that's been really nice, and that seed is just putting a shipment together right now, actually going to Europe, and we have an import company set up in Europe, which took a couple of years, but it's now active. So the distribution of the new seeds we've bred in Thailand, they're going to be available in Europe in the wholesale. You can get distributor amounts through the importer, which the website for Cementis 420 or Cementis Seeds or cementisseeds.com. I think it's on a few socials as Cementis 420 maybe. But
Right.
anyway, that's sort of the European distribution will be centered out of, and then also I've brought legal seeds in with the phytosanitary certificates in bulk that way from Colombia as well. So I have some different projects still humming along down there, and Colombia is really interesting as far as the changes there because it was always hamstrung by overregulation and being the only country that grudgingly granted FUPOs, which are quotas, and you could only grow for export basically. It was very, very restricted local market, which meant, you know, you if your doctor prescribed it, a pharmacy could prepare it for you, a formula magistrale, which means like you might sell the base ingredient to the pharmacist, but he has to blend it into the final form. So it can't be like a prepackaged medicine. You
Why is
could
there always
sell
these
them.
stupid rules, man?
Oh, it's so
It just
stupid.
can't
But
ever
yeah, the
be
chemist has
straightforward,
to
can it?
blend it. That's it. Like if you sell them um, a kilo of distillate at 90%, any cannabinoid, let's say, then they would have to prepare it according to the prescription. So if it was a topical, we're gonna mix it with beeswax and coconut butter or whatever, I don't know, to make this solve up and dose it to however many milligrams per gram of salt in a solve. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. So very few people were taking part in Colombian medical prescriptions because it was really ridiculous. So I mean, sure, if your kid has epilepsy or something and you want to get them some drops, by all means, it's got to be. But for the overall majority of people, they would just still be in the black market or
Hmm.
growing their own. So the cool thing, Colombia has allowed 20 plants homegrown per property for a long time already. That's very established there. And possession isn't a crime either. Using in public can get you a hefty fine, but possession isn't a crime if you're not selling it. And so they've been fairly progressive for a long time, but the commercial cannabis thing they set up, they just sort of hobbled everybody because if you have to get the quotas in advance, long time before you can propagate and have all your plants ready to grow the actual production crop. None of the clients want an 18-month lead time. They're buying weed and they want to see what's on the shelf. And they're competing with countries like Canada that do have product on the shelf. So who's going to make an order 18 months lead time for a product that's not ready yet?
Mm.
So the Colombia was really shot itself in the foot that way. But what recently is happening, and this is really interesting, is they have um, kind of opened it up for I don't want to say, I'll say social clubs, but even socially conscious clubs. So, for example, you can kind of get an exemption. It's under, I think it was the 2023 drug strategy, which all the different branches of the government basically all signed on to, saying, if you can provide alternate employment for coca growers and you help these villages convert to making live rosin for you, then you can have a club because you're getting it all through rural development. And so the first agronomist I ever hired in Colombia is a very good friend, old friend Gustavo. He's been working in rural development for the government for the last few years. So he was very in tune with what's going on that way. And
Mm.
essentially, we're looking at opening some spice of life social clubs there, but then grow all in partnership with various various ethnic groups throughout the country and then it gives you a layer of acceptance. Like it's really unusual. It's not, but and the mayors are willing to sign off and stuff like that. It's really crazy. It's such an unusual thing. And again, that's not written in stone, but you do have to, if you look up the 2023 narcotics strategy or whatever for Colombia, you'll see that it outlines all these opportunities to do creative things with cannabis. Um, and it doesn't require like formal licensing so much as your declaration that what you're doing is righteous. It's a very different, it's I absolutely love seeing these different paradigms come up. And the other cool thing with that was, and that was going to open up a domestic market so people could access, adult use without making any, you know, show of it being a prescription. Not to make light of people that genuinely need cannabis medicinally, but
Hmm.
lots of people make a show of a prescription so that they can access it if that's the only legal way.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just a given. It's not being cynical. It's just the way it is everywhere it's ever happened. And then once the adult use is legalized, then those medical numbers drop significantly.
Hmm.
So this is really a fun thing that they're doing in Colombia, I think. And there's already, been clubs operating there for a number of years, basically just being tolerated, which is still how it starts, right? That's usually how it starts. So then once there gets to be one on every corner, then they want to say in it, the government will be like, okay, now we want to say in this. But as it is now, basically there's no will to prosecute people. And this is the best of my understanding. I mean, I'm not a Colombian lawyer or a lawyer of any sort, but from my understanding is if you were to open a social club now and sell clean cannabis, especially you can show that it tests clean of fungicides and pesticides and stuff, because that's a big concern. They've had like a lot of black market cartridges down there, and they got like 100 times the level of fungicides in them.
Oof. Ugh.
Disgusting stuff. So they recognize they've got a big problem.
Mhm.
And if you could have, hey, we're gonna sell certified clean cannabis. We're gonna work with the indigenous to produce it and teach them to grow, high quality genetics for their region to the highest possible standards, then we'll have a really nice club and potentially online as well. So you could have online members and then anybody in Colombia, because people love carts there, I find. In lots of places they do, but I mean, even flour, anything, a lot of people don't really have a reliable source of high quality, let's
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
If you have something very special there, people are always thrilled. And the people with a lot of money are definitely used to paying top dollar for it because they're used to buying the expensive stuff from the States and having it smuggled back. So definitely but there's got to be high quality at all the price points. So I think
Yeah.
it's important to have something super affordable, but it's also super clean.
Mhm. Mhm.
Happy to have something mid-range where it's like above average. It's really quite nice. And then happy to have some absolute showstopper stuff too. And that can, hopefully stay in a competitive range. If we can do it at a good enough scale, we can keep the prices down on it. So if they once, you're not producing in the dark, if you're allowed to do it, your economy of scale goes up because you're not hiding it anymore. You can just go to town.
Mhm.
So if we can partner with the odd village to do a good job with us, and we'd have to like literally, we'll have a grower there and a processor there holding their hands through it for the first year or two,
Mhm.
like usual, and then after that, probably there's going to be people trained there that understand what quality means and keep it up. So I think Colombia's it's not out of the running, but one of the crazy cool things is, and I just laugh about this, but the licensed producers that are going to be able to sell there is they have three layers of licensed producers. There's large, medium, and small. So the large ones, I can't remember the exact rate, but it might have been over five. What was it? The small producers were up to 5 hectares, I think. The medium producers might have been 5 to 15 hectares, and over 15 hectares was large. And I'm just making these numbers up because I don't remember the
Right. Yeah.
exact breakdown. It's been 8, 9 years since I looked at the licensing there, but there were small, medium, and large licenses. Only for 2 years, the small and medium licenses get to access the domestic market, and the large ones are still stuck export only. So
Wow.
the large producers there don't get to sell into the domestic market, for the 2 years that the small and medium ones do to give the little guys a head start.
Oh, okay.
So I
Okay.
thought that was kind of fun.
Mhm. Mhm. A rule that kind of makes sense this time round.
I would prefer there was no rules, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I just find the government tilting markets is not ideal.
No,
But
true.
either way, this is just kind of a funny change from the norm.
Mhm. Did you ever get into Brazil?
Well, we did a legal seed shipment to Brazil one time, but haven't really pursued anything with Brazil since that first seed shipment.
Right.
I would love to because it's somewhere I've never been and that I've always wanted to go,
Mhm.
and I would, I'm sure I would enjoy it. So it looks promising. I've seen the first clubs have now opened in Brazil. There's one called Orange House or something, and the as for the last few years, patients in Brazil could import product, but no product was to be available locally. It's so weird. So your doctor had to write you a prescription and it had to be something that was approved by their, I think it was Anvisa, if I recall, was their FDA basically. So you had to get a foreign product that was already approved by Anvisa, and then you could import your personal prescription amount, which was decidedly inconvenient for the people trying to export to Brazil that they had to do it patient by patient. So some of them started to stockpile this stuff in Uruguay, so it would be on the border between Argentina and Brazil there, and they could warehouse it and export it in from there. But things are changing in Brazil. There's been a few licenses for R&D, and I haven't kept up with it too much, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see the first licenses for production, or if they already exist. They might already exist. I just don't know.
Mm.
Just
Yeah,
keeping
it'd be a game
tabs on it.
changer if Brazil gets up and running properly.
Well, it's a big country, right? So it's like
Hmm.
over 200 million people. That's a significant market.
Yeah.
People say, well, lots of them are poor, but that's okay. I'm happy to grow pot for poor people as much as rich people. Honestly, I just think you can, if you do it well and you can learn to do it well at scale. A lot of people think they're mutually exclusive, but it's not. It's just translating what you know and the level of care. Like if the level of care goes down with the scale, it's going to suffer. But on the other hand, if your end game is doing live rosin, you don't really need to, sucker every branch on every plant. You're going to be just thrashing through it all into hash pretty quick and getting it as clean as you can and squishing it.
Mm.
And that's, the end of the day, as long as it's ripe, you've got ripe resin, you don't have to babysit every branch, But
Yeah.
if you're trying to do finished flowers, then you've really got to handle it with care by hand. But if you're going to do, let's say, of affordable pre-rolled line, you want to undercut tobacco cigarettes and have grass joints that are smooth smoking, 20% THC, half the price of tobacco cigarettes. I think that would be a coup. I don't really care if I have to use mechanical harvesting to get that done.
Hmm.
As long as it smokes good at the end of the day, nobody sees what the flower looks like in
Yeah,
a
yeah. Bag
pre-roll. They
appeal
just
doesn't
care
matter
how it
then, does it?
smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could take portion of the crop and make it into hash or rosin, and then weave that back into your pre-rolls to give them a little lift too. you
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
you can juice them, right?
Hmm. Just who's gonna roll them all? Yeah,
Very specialized rolling equipment.
mm.
That's for sure.
So where
There's
would you say across the world in all these different places with all the cannabis markets, where's the best place for somebody to have a cannabis business like yours?
well, right now, with I'll tell you, it's a very if you're thinking like mine, like a seed business, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah.
For a seed business, the nice thing about Thailand is there's not the quotas like in Colombia, but you can only own 49% of the company. The Thai has to own 51%.
All right.
So that is often a headache for a lot of people there. That'll be the Achilles heel of the deal, you know?
Hmm.
So if you want to own it outright and not deal with quotas, it remains to be seen, but I believe Costa Rica is worth looking at. It's taken off there slowly but surely, and it just doesn't have the quota problem. I don't know that they have any experience with the registration of cannabis genetics yet, but you can always be the first and teach them.
Hmm.
Um, but it's looking good because you can find a few different climates for your outdoor test zones. You can be in the hot lowlands up in Guanacaste. You could be mid-range, like in Atenas between San Jose and the Pacific, and then you're at a nice altitude. If you're at an altitude like 1,600 square meters, you can have enclosed greenhouses that don't really need much in the way of aircon or heating, which is a huge savings, right?
Mm.
So if I was looking for greenhouse facility, I look at those latitude or those altitudes in the tropics because you've got year-round steady temps that don't need heating and don't need cooling. And if you want to test your stuff outdoors in cooler, wetter conditions to mimic being higher latitude, you can just go to higher altitudes there where it's always cold and wet. So you can really, I've got my eyes on a new place down there perhaps. But the other one I was just designing before we jumped on this call, I've got two new places to develop breeding stations in Morocco, one in Katama and one in Chefchaouen. So in Morocco, obviously up in Katama, it's been tolerated a long time, but nowadays you can get licenses in Morocco, and then you can start doing all the official things with it. So the one in Chefchaouen, they've already got GMP, and they're exporting, you Moroccan. They're growing Beldia, classic old Beldia, and they're making traditional method. I've got videos of it with them with the sticks, but they're wearing the hairnets and the face masks and the gowns, but then they're still beating the sticks, staples, the screen weed, and they're making GMP Moroccan dry stuff. I shit you not. So
Nice.
so the first so yeah, so those guys are interested in learning about getting a seed thing going. I always laugh because there's a few big seed growers in the world that concentrate on supplying commercial farmers. There's only maybe four guys that really do this, that sell seed in million lots. And I'm not counting CBD farmers in Colorado and shit, but I mean for hash farmers or grass farmers. So most of the clients for the big numbers are Albanian or Moroccan. Most of them Moroccan. And I mean, even when I was making greenhouses of seed in Switzerland, I used to sit in Algeciras in the south of Spain and sell bulk shishka berry seeds to Moroccan hash farmers. And the shishka berry hash was really fun to see coming back. To see it back in Spain and see the shishka berry hash coming back from Morocco. So it was always a treat for me to see that. But it was such a good hash plant, that one. So I hadn't been servicing those markets in 25 years almost now. So I decided instead of taking seed to Spain to sell to these groups, that it was made more sense to just go to Morocco and make the seed there. And I laughed because at first they're all like, well, you can't make the seed here because then it's just going to be crossed with everything else. And then, it's just won't be good seed because nobody wants to plant the local seed because they don't know what it is. And I said, yeah, it's only pollen around Morocco for one window in the year. The rest of the year, nobody grows there,
Mm.
So to have greenhouses right now that you could be, there's no plants growing in Morocco, right? There's no males blowing pollen right now in Morocco. So if you were starting a crop now, and you had some greenhouses there that you could have a little bit of warming, especially at Katama because it's a little higher altitude. But I've seen these like inexpensive ones in China where they literally build like an earthen tunnel in the greenhouse and have like a fire at the one end, and it goes heat, all the smoke goes through the tunnel in the baked in the floor of the greenhouse and warms it, gives off that nice ambient heat throughout the greenhouse. So there's some sort of rustic ways you could do it. Um, anyway, we'll find whatever makes the most sense for doing
Mhm.
it. It might even be some solar and batteries and heat blankets and God knows, we'll figure it out. But I
Mhm.
haven't put the Moroccan ones together yet. We're just doing the designs on them right now. And I think if you just planted your production crop from seed, like I can take fem seed there and grow 10 greenhouses of seed. They can just be polytunnels, but still that gives you a pretty nice crop of seed, right? If you do
Mhm.
about 500 plants a polytunnel or something.
It's a lot of seed.
Um, right, you have enough. You have, especially for the first year. that's not even that much seed. That's a fair bit of seed, but there's definitely bigger seed crops happening.
Hmm.
So I would
So
like to get it up to at least a hectare of poly for seed. But let's start with 10 tunnels, I think, because really we're going to try to get going on it now. It's up to my partners there if they can pull it off or not, because I'm not going to go over and do it for them. But if I give them the instructions and if they can get it together, good. But the goal is to have like the first one up in 2 weeks so you could start all the seeds and then you could build the other nine over the next few weeks
hmm
to be able to transplant them into them. And then if you grew November, December, January, February, 4 months for the crop, by the end of February, beginning of March, you're drying out your seed crop. So easily by the end of March, you have them cleaned, dried, separated, cleaned, and
yeah.
ready to go to market for the springtime in Morocco. And be able to have sample flowers and sample hash and everything of it to show the customers. Because right now, the Moroccan customers, they go to Spain and, if you buy 1 million seeds, which is minimum order for the big lots, those are 25 cents a seed, $250,000 for 1 million seeds is for good quality ones, that's a good rate. They can be down to 10 cents a seed, I've seen as well. But at 25 cents a seed, if you've got super high quality, you can get that. Um, but that's, if you think you have medium sized seeds, it's about 50,000 seeds a kilo. So you've got 20 kilos of seed, which is like 44 pounds of seeds. That's a significant amount of seeds, right? So
mm
if you've got to get that back, if you have to move that to another continent, that's an issue.
hmm
I know they move bigger amounts of hash into Europe, where taking seeds to Morocco's goes way way down on the complexity level compared to bringing the crop back to Europe. But it's still an issue. They could still lose them. So if they can get them in their hometown, they're going to be a lot happier
Yeah,
than
yeah.
if they have to
hmm
bring them back from Barcelona, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
And they can visit the farm, see the farmers, talk to them, and really see that they're getting quality seeds too. So I think a lot of the ones I've talked to, a lot of the bulk seed that they've been getting over the last number of years, quality hasn't necessarily always been what they would like to see. So I think to go back into the bulk market and to bring, you know, just a little better layer of professionalism there, hopefully, and have a stronger offerings. I think we'll get lots of takers, I hope, anyway. And then the following year, if we need to make several hectares of plastic into seed, we can. But doing it in the off season makes it a no brainer. And if we can get if we can do the genetics registration with a license and get phytosanitary certificate on the seed, then I can legally import it into the EU as well and have it in packs for growers in the EU.
hmm But what kind of people buy 1 million seeds?
Farmers.
And they just go out there and plant a shitload of plants. So
Yeah,
are
when
they
you see
planting all of them?
those fields in Morocco where there's like a whole valley of plants, those
Mm-hmm.
guys buy 1 million seeds to plant that valley.
Wow, that's an incredible amount of plants.
Well, and they broadcast seed it too. They're not transplanting trays out into the field. They're just walking down the hill, just throwing handfuls of seed, right?
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
you go through them.
yeah, for
You
sure.
can go through them. Anyway, it really does matter to them that they get good quality yield and the least amount of males, right? Least amount of males,
Mm,
but then also they're not harvesting those plants to be flowers. They're harvesting them to get the maximum amount of resin per hectare.
right.
So you got to remember it's a different game, right? You could have buds, you could have plants that really lacked good buds but have frosty fan leaves.
Hmm.
You know, that was I unreleased, but I made Shishkaberry 4 was like that. They look like palm trees where they just had one bract with one seed between every petiole and the main stem, and the top of them just look like palm trees, the tops of the branches. They just petioles and fan leaves, and there was really no bud. There was just these little teardrop bracts that many people call calyxes, but that was for the seed. That was, there was no bud. You'd get where that like a pre-flower, basically. You'd get seeds out of those, but the fan leaves were covered in resin, top and bottom. They were freakish, really, So, but I kept that. Well, I kept that jar. There's still that jar of seeds is still on ice in Switzerland. So, but I never ever grew out from those. But I was like, man, one day I'll be able to breed for just growing fields of hash. And if there's no buds, you don't even have to worry about the buds molding. There's no buds, right? It's just fields of trichomes. That's just the point there, right?
Mm-mm. Did
The
you have
flowers
many
show.
things like that on ice? So you say you got this type on ice. Do you have seeds stored like that as well? A shitload of them.
Those I have like those I have a film canister of.
Oh, right,
So
right.
not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably half full because there wasn't many seeds on the plants because there was no buds, right? There were just like
Mm-hmm.
those little pre-flowers between the leaves. Anyways, they're freakish. I would hope that I don't know if they'd even start, but hopefully they were from 2002. Those ones.
Wow. You think they'll be okay still? Yeah. What's the what's the longevity of
I don't
frozen
know. Like
seeds?
I saw a California guy recently planted an old pack of 97 Spice of Life Sweet Tooth, which was probably the second year of it. And those, he got one, they were a pack of 12, I think. And he got, maybe it was a 10 pack, I don't know. Anyway, he got one seed out of the pack to come up. But that was super old, right? Like
Mm.
almost 30 years, but he still got one out of the pack to grow and
Wow.
got a female. And coincidentally, he said it's as good as anything today. So that was
Nice.
really nice to see. He did a great job with it.
Yeah. Real
But
old school.
yeah, yeah, I was surprised. But I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that surprised because I remember how good it was. But I was surprised that he got one out of the pack. I was still happy for him. I
Mm-hmm.
found when, making, because I did a little experiment a long time ago. I grew with salts when I was doing I used to experiment with hydroponics and try like NFT or deep water or rock wool.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I had the NFTs and I did some shishkaberry seed in that versus in living soil back at my place where we used to just call biosoil or organic soil. But it was over time, the germ rates were better in the organic soil from my tests. So anybody's welcome to
Mm.
retest and may come up with different results. But in my experience, the seeds that were grown with salt, other people's as well, they seem to lose um, the germination rate would go down sooner. And it may be that they gave her too much salt or they burned them a bit. But I often found that seeds from salt farms didn't do as well in the germination department. It said nothing about the
Mm.
genetics, obviously, but it was just that they seemed to dry out faster or that they got burnt, overfed when they were growing, but they got some kind of trauma that with the nice clean bio seed, I get perfect germination rate easy for 5 years. Just at
Wow.
leaving the seeds at room temperature and still get 10 out of 10 in 5 years. So I'm always sold on doing seed production in an organic paradigm because I just feel like I get better germ rates out of it. And the
Mm.
longer those seeds have better germ rates, the less headaches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think it could be down to the bacteria or something?
Yeah, it could be some, microbial thing. I don't know. I just don't know what the mechanism is, but there seems to be a difference.
Mm-hmm. So things are still going to be okay in Thailand. Then you think nothing's going to change? You think it's going to go back to as
Yeah,
it was? Or?
basically the thing is now you if you get caught with cannabis that doesn't come from an official source, you can be in trouble. Whereas that wasn't an issue 6 months ago, you know? So nowadays you've got to say, hey, this is the, 30 grams I bought at this store with this prescription. So you got to keep it on you like your prescription and be like, yeah, this is my prescription weed. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're good because they can see it's all from official sources. But if you have like your ounce of weed and an ounce of hash, they'll be like, wait a sec, you're only allowed an ounce, you know?
All right, right. But that's not
So
likely to happen. Do they search people often, or just by
I think
chance?
they're going to concentrate that on the tourist areas simply as a
Right.
revenue generating scheme,
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm.
which, is not unheard of,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know.
You think tourism is going to be affected in Thailand now?
Well, tourism's down right now for various reasons, I guess, but it's already really down.
Mm.
Thailand's always going to be a heavily touristed place. It's like it's one of the world's number one tourist destinations, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a massive amount of people visit there every year. I forget how many, but it's like 20 million people or something.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
they're not all coming for the weed. There's a whole Thailand's got a
Mm-hmm.
lot more going on
Yeah.
than ganja, and that's just what we love. That it spices up and makes a destination, makes or breaks it. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm looking at two different destinations and one of them's cannabis friendly, I'll take the cannabis
Yeah.
friendly one every time. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah. For sure.
I'd rather reward them. I'd rather enjoy myself more,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to support the ones that are. I don't like going to countries that have really
Yeah.
evil
Like
cannabis
Singapore. That
regulations.
place is crazy.
Yeah, they're not getting my tourist money in Singapore.
Mm.
No, not even. I don't even want to go to the UK.
No. Neither do
And,
I. You
and,
know.
and you can get, you can get a prescription in the UK and have legal weed.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of idea. You got to show your prescription, and even then, the cops don't know what the fuck it is. And, but you can have legal weed in the UK now, so it's a step better than it once was, right?
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
You can't grow your own, which is a fundamental problem.
Mm-hmm.
And even in Thailand, there's lots of expats there that grow their own, but theoretically, it's their girlfriend's plants because the foreigners aren't allowed to have plants.
All
Only,
right. Okay.
only Thai citizens are allowed to grow their own. So not just residency permit, but Thai citizens.
Okay.
So
That's interesting. Everybody needs
yeah,
to
so
get
bear
themselves
that
a
in mind.
Thai girlfriend.
Yeah, in the but overall, like it's one of those things where once they cross a certain level of permissiveness, nobody's really counting after that, you
Mm,
know?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to come over and split hairs and go, are these yours or your girlfriend's? Like, nobody's ever going to fucking bother you about because everybody's got them if they want, and it's just
Yeah.
become a non issue for most part, for the most part. So they still don't like public consumption, and you'll get stink eye if you're smoking a joint on the sidewalk and some lady walks by with her kids. She'll be giving you the stink eye. Trust me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can get a fine for a few $100, which is a lot, especially if you're local. But man, it's for anybody. It's still like 300 or 400 bucks for smoking a joint in public. That doesn't strike me as really progressive. But on the other hand, they just but you could be smoking a cigarette on the sidewalk and they wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy, isn't it?
I still think the problem's their problem, not my problem.
Mm.
Like I don't like the smell of that diesel bus that just went by, but what am I gonna do? I'm standing
Yeah.
at the side
Mm-hmm.
of the road fucking where diesel buses drive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can hold my breath when they go by, but I can't block them from coming.
That's it. Things shouldn't be illegal just because people don't like the smell of it.
Yeah. I mean, geez. Anyway.
Some, yeah. And I saw that shelf you have behind you there. Is that a nice selection of whiskey you have?
Yeah, there's a little bit of whiskey there, yeah. Wee
Oh, you got there.
selection.
You got some Macallan there.
14.
Can't hear you. Can't hear. Can't hear
Oh,
you.
sorry. I forgot. I'll just let you look here. But yeah, a couple of Glenlivets,
Cool.
Lafroig, Macallan. Yeah, it's a little rotating blend. I don't go through them that fast, but I like having them for company.
Hmm.
And this weekend I have my in-laws coming actually, and my father-in-law is absolutely loves Scotch. So basically, I mostly keep them here for him.
Nice.
If I have friends over, I would think once or twice a year I might pour myself a little thistle of one or the other by
Nice.
myself. But if I have company, then maybe after dinner we'll grab some and we'll all have some. That's not very often. Like some of those bottles have probably been there for 5 years or more already.
Well, don't leave them go for too long. They only get better in the barrel.
Well, I drink. I don't drink much anymore, but I used to drink wine a lot
Hmm.
because I did. I made wine for 15 years, and for probably half of that time, I was probably drinking like 3 liters of wine a day. So I haven't, wall smoking hash all day too. So, but
Jeez.
as you kind of outgrew the daily drinking, now I just don't like. I really still love wine, and if I'm making a nice dinner or going out to a friend's for a nice dinner or something, I'm happy to bring. Like I've got cab sauves I made 20 years ago in new
Cool.
barrels that are absolutely to die for. And when they're gone, they're gone. Like
Hmm.
I can't get more of that. I can't replace that. So it's not like I can go and get the current vintage of Brunello or any Bordeaux, But to get one's 20 years old, well, that's a pain in the ass and very expensive. So you can't.
Hmm.
I really got into making wine when I got into drinking wine and realized, I really like these bottles are 150 bucks. I just don't really like paying 150 bucks for the bottle. So I'm like, surely I could grow this stuff and make wine of this quality for a lot less. Well,
Yeah.
I could make the high quality wine, but I could have made it for a lot less. It's, it's an expensive hobby, making wine, but it was no overall it can be a decent business too. I love, but it's such a parallel universe to cannabis where you're cultivating and crafting flavorful intoxicants from plants with moderate health benefits, right?
Hmm.
So you think, okay, well, these are, both of them sort of heighten my enjoyment of things. So I really enjoy cannabis. I really enjoy wine. And if I'm gonna have a drink, I would generally have wine over most things. But depending what I'm having, I might prefer having a beer. I can appreciate beer. I've never been a huge beer snob, but I definitely appreciate beer. But the same with whiskey. I like good whiskey, but I don't know that I appreciate it as much as some people do.
Hmm.
I was actually fortunate to try some really ridiculous stuff recently. I can't remember what it was called. I have pictures of it, but I think it was like 1,500 bucks a bottle or something. It
Yeah.
was somebody shared it with me. I was like, shoot, no, no kidding. Anyway, to me, it's a little lost on me. With the wine, I might see it like, oh, that's a really nice Petrus. So if I can enjoy I can see it more for me. So I think that means that I'm more into wine because I can justify the the more luxury item of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get just like with homegrown cannabis, making your own wine, absolute joy. If you can grow, a half acre and make yourself a nice barrel of Pinot Noir every year, you'll have your 23 cases of Pinot Noir after a couple of years, in the barrel. It's a real treat, to have your own, to grow the grapes, make the wine, put it away, and save it and see how they get over time. Like
Hmm.
you can build them to last and you can make them to drink sooner, so there's lots of ways you can steer what it becomes.
Yeah.
So, and you can pick a happy medium, just like with cannabis, there's lots of traits that are mutually exclusive, like early and potent. Your most potent one's never your earliest one. You know,
Hmm.
or heavy and early. Your heaviest one won't be your first one necessarily. You
Yeah.
can have a heavy early, or you can have a super heavy.
Hmm.
So one of them's a compromise, and one of them's uncompromising. You're just going for the one trait.
Yeah.
Some of the traits I look forward to working on in new breeding projects. One equatorial one that I'm dying to start, which has been in the wings for like 3 years while we work out the regulations with the regulator so that we get license number one. That's in Ghana, and they've just been dragging it out interminably. But hopefully, any day now, I've been hearing for a while, but any day now, we could have our license and get started in Ghana. But, anyways, one of the things I want to do in the new breeding projects is work on abscission zones for the leaves, especially, the sugar leaves in particular. So you know how much work it is to go in and de-leaf and thin out your plants, right?
Hmm.
So that's one of the important things to do this time of year around here is to de-leaf those plants and thin them out so you get the airflow and the light penetrates better and makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're growing high numbers of plants and that becomes a huge labor cost to go out and de-leaf, 100 acres of wheat or whatever. Don't you want to just have leaves that once they turn yellow, they immediately just drop off? So
Wouldn't that be
that's the
nice? Yeah.
yeah. So the abscission layer is where the petioles attach to the stem. So by looking for concentrations of the plasmids responsible for that, you can breed for that once you find the markers for okay, what makes this plant it drops leaves easily. This one it hangs onto them. They shrivel up and they're brown and they don't fall. This one drops them. Let's see what's different in these different groups of plants. So you can group a population, of siblings and take the ones that are more inclined to lose the leaves without help and then breed towards that once you've identified those markers. So really, that's one of the markers I want to look for is the ones that control the abscission layers of the leaf because I love the idea of it and or it like, hits a certain temperature. So say if you're making an early outdoor for Canada, maybe it's autoflower field or something. But once the temperatures start going down to like 5 degrees at night, all the fan leaves just fall off, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Wow.
Right? So
Wouldn't
they
that
would
be
just
nice?
be that,
Fuck. Hmm.
yeah, just a green manure on the field.
Mm-mm.
And even if it's, if it's a timing thing, but it can be in the greenhouses, it could do that. It could be indoor. If it was just at a certain level of ripeness, say you've got a, you know, 8 week finishing flower plant, flower time plant, it's a 60-day plant or something like that. Then you say, well, the last 3 weeks we usually de-leaf it, so you say, okay, at 5 weeks, all the freaking leaves fall off, So, and then, so anyway, that's kind of a fun thing. Like, it's all about having goals. If you don't have a goal, you can't work towards it.
Very true.
And I think, and also plants with good bracts to leaf ratios. And we've all seen those, we've all had buds that really didn't have much to trim. And those are really a godsend for commercial growers too, but even home growers, because nobody likes trimming. So
Uh,
it, I don't mind leafy bud if I'm making hash. There might be more trikes on a leafy bud because most of the trikes are on the leaf anyway. So there's you've got more surface area for resin on a leafy bud. Whereas if you're growing for finished flower, I've seen two types that really didn't need trimming. One, it just had like a couple of leaves sticking out, like with a leaf stem, a petiole. So there was like one bud would have maybe two leaf stems sticking out with full leaves on it, but the bud itself didn't really have anything to trim. So
Beautiful.
you could just, those would just break off on their own basically once you dried them out and bagged them up. The or they just easily removed, you know.
Mhm.
And the other ones I've had that didn't need trimming was the sugar leaves were very small little triangular tips, but like short. So they didn't stick out of the bud very far.
Mhm.
And once they dried, they just pulled into the bud and became part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I've seen these two styles of bud that I think would be absolutely, advantageous to bring more flavors to that realm of bud that doesn't need trimmed. Says if you can just harvest bud and skip the trimming,
Oh,
that would be such a time saver,
yeah.
for
Especially on
so
them large
many people.
scales as well.
Yeah, those guys too, they're working on really slim margins on
Mm.
on the big scale stuff. They're working on very slim margins. So, and in a lot of cases, and I saw this happen in Switzerland, we're seeing this happen now in Thailand. There's so much supply, and in Canada too. The majority of the price of a pound or a kilo of weed is the cost of trimming it.
Mhm.
So, like in Switzerland, it would cost 400 francs. At the time, they were like Canadian dollars. Now they're more like American dollars. I think I don't even know, but let's just say $400. We'll just say to trim it a kilo. And at that time, the outdoor price was 900 a kilo. So it'd be 500 for the farmer and 400 for the trimmers.
Damn.
So you think that's half the price, basically. Half the price of the weed is trimming.
It's crazy, isn't
So
it?
if you can give that back to the farmer, you know, the farmer's gonna be very happy. So that's I work for farmers basically. I want to, and sometimes I think like I know what they want before they know what they want. They
Yeah.
might not realize it's possible to breed weed that doesn't need much trimming
Mm,
or
mm.
that doesn't need all the de-leafing.
I mean, if I was to
That's
buy seeds and it said on the description, very low in leaves fall off towards the end of flower, I'll be like, oh, what THC is it? 15. Don't care. It's got no leaf. Give me that one.
that's great, man. That's a huge savings. I mean, everybody, even their backyard, like I've just got, under a dozen plants in my yard. It doesn't take me very long to do it, but it's still a bit of, it's a labor of love, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a chore. There's some people that are like, it's just a chore. For me, I like put the headphones on, little music, smoke a joint, go de-leaf a plant. Takes
Yes.
15, 20 minutes, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day I might do a different one. So it's not like it's an issue for me to do it. I don't have very much to do. But if I had like some of my farms, if I had to do it on, well, I need 20 people all day, every day to do it. That's a huge chunk of change, even if it's in low cost areas. That's a lot of labor with, a little more breeding. It's upgrading plants, like with the Verosense thing, where I'm making the infertile females. Now I've got
Mm-hmm.
about 10 breeders on the program to make them for the catalog. So we're doing a really good selection into infertiles. So commercial producers next spring, they'll be able to start trying out everything on the catalog, and they'll have a lifetime membership once they've signed up with us that they try any new release to our infertiles catalog. But it's sort of the next levels of stuff I want to bring to that is going to be various fungal resistance that we've selected through screening, that we say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, these are guaranteed to be safe for septoria, these are safe for mildew. And the cool climate ones have to be safe for mildew. The hot climate ones have to be safe for pseudocercospora and septoria, and different climate change, different fungal pressures, right? And a lot of the genes are already known, like it's the same gene in tomato, like PM1 is the same in tomato as it is in cannabis, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel on a lot of those things. And yucca or cassava is like the world's top starch crop. and it's why I hired that agronomist Gustavo, because he is like second gen cassava consultant. But cassava shares a huge amount of the same pests as cannabis in the tropics. So it's the same bugs that eat them, it's the same molds that hit them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much work has been done on cassava that if you can learn from that, you can apply it to cannabis too. So every region's got its own peculiarities. But I just realized I've been talking your ass off and ran over time here.
Oh no, we're fine. Don't worry. Have you got somewhere to go?
No, no, no rush. I
Oh yeah,
kept the afternoon open.
cool. It's good to know that you're still breeding as well to be looking out for these kind of traits, try and get
Well,
them out to the
it's
farmer.
there's there's a million people with little seed companies now, so it's
Mm.
when I started at it, it really needed to be done. There wasn't very many people doing it, and there was
Mm-hmm.
there was of course hobby breeders at home, and those are the people that kept it alive all these years in North America, and to the point, it evolved because it did become such a valuable underground crop that of course breeding was gonna have to be involved to optimize it. When you have a
Mm-hmm.
valuable crop, people want to optimize their crops, so breeding is a big part of that. And it got done underground as much as it can get done above ground. But now that it can be done above ground, that's always where it's going to explode the fastest. It's gonna gradually happen if it's happening behind closed doors, and you can't do selections at scale, but you can still do selections in your closet. You're still going
Mm-hmm.
to get some progress, and you're going to conserve some genetics, but once you can just put them out in the wide open and really look through high populations, that's when you really start taking giant leaps forward. To
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people say, in the breeding community, so selective breeding's dead because you can study everything in the lab nowadays and make selections from young juveniles without ever flowering them and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you can, but there's
Yeah,
still
but
no
you still want
substitute.
to see the flower, don't you?
There's no substitute for checking them out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the lab is amazing, and anything you can get done in the lab to help you understand what you're doing in the field, fantastic. But even the lab needs samples to run. They got to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're separating a population into, yes, it has it or no, it doesn't for any specific trait, you call group A and group B, it could be purple and green. So you just send in some DNA samples. Here's 50 samples for group A. Here's 50 samples of group B. And the lab said, okay, well, we'll run them and see what's the same and what's different. And they'll run them and go, okay, well, they all were the same except here. And group A had this and group B had that. Say, okay, that's how you know if they're going to be purple or green. So they don't know what they're
Mm-hmm.
testing for, but they'll find the marker,
Yeah.
just based on the farmer's separation of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So so that'll be the same if we're looking for the plants that have drop leaves easier. Like for example, the one I found that just didn't want to drop leaves. This was good 6, 7 years ago. I had one outside called Berry White, and that thing, even when the fan leaves had shriveled up and turned brown, they were still attached. Like they usually when they're yellow, you give them a little tug and they just come off. They just a little quick snap and they come off when they're ready to come off. Most cannabis, just a little encouragement, you can knock
Mm-hmm.
them off. You just pull them downwards down the stem and they snap off when they're ready to come. If they don't snap off, I leave them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty easy. Most of them do that. Whereas the berry white, it had a very strong abscission characteristic where that abscission layer was really stuck to the main plant. Like it did not want to let go. So that is the opposite of what I want. So if I can identify the marker it has versus the regular ones, I would be on my way to being able to select in the future for the ones
Yeah.
that give up the easiest. They might have the least amount of this, whereas the ones that hold on have the strongest amount of this,
Yeah.
because you'll get an explosion of the markers wherever the activity on the plant is happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That
Is that
makes
done by
sense.
gene sequencing and things like that?
That's right. Yeah. So you'd be sequencing them to find out, wait, what is the plant telling itself to do here? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, these are things that are really important to have plants that are infertile and won't make a seed, plants that you don't need to trim, plants that de-leaf themselves, plants that have fungal resistance, you know, and when you can put all of the above together in something with a very distinctive taste and pleasant chemotype, if you're looking for ratioed stuff or specific cannabinoids, like any of that can be dealt with. But even if the only thing we're looking at is THC as far as cannabinoids go and flavors, if that's the only thing, if we're just saying, look, we're just interested in THC and flavors, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still might as well have ones that are guaranteed never to have an accidental seed, that'll
Mm-hmm.
drop their leaves, that don't need trim, that have, fungal resistance. These are all traits I'd want anything to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if it tastes like pine or cherry pie. If I like pine ones, someday I want the pine ones. Someday I want the fruity ones. Someday I want the stinky ones. Because I can get down with some really acrid weed once in a while. It's not my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
There's some
Mm-hmm.
people love like the more rotten it smells or the more acrid.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. That's funky. And
Variety is the
sometimes
spice of life, as they say.
yeah, no, I like having a range for sure, but I do like fruity and candy ones, obviously. And there's lots of people out there that are too cool for school. Go, oh, I fucking hate candy now, and it's okay. You don't like candy, that's cool. But it doesn't mean that everybody else has to hate it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't say they're a less sophisticated palate because they like candy and not skunk ass, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I mean, really,
And
it
not
doesn't
baby
matter.
sick or dog
Yeah,
shit,
oh, this smells
you
like,
know?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, this one smells like rotting meat. I love it. It's like cool. And sometimes as hash, those ones are really neat too. Like I find some of the ones I don't like most Afghanicas, there's always something I don't like about Afghanicas in that mulching leaf smell. If we're talking about wine, I'd say sous bois. It has that sort of forest floor, that wet earth kind of smell. The
Mm,
mulching oak leaves or boxwoods. I hate the
mm,
smell of boxwood. If you ever walk into somebody's front door and they got the boxwoods there, that is a smell I do not like. And I find it very common in a lot of Afghans and and Pakistan, Kush in general, right? But I do love those plants made into hash. When that hash is cured, it becomes a different smell, right? And different taste. And
mhm,
it goes from being that kind of mulching smell to being more peppery. So
mm, mm,
the what those primary volatiles are and what they turn into can be very different, and you can get a lot of different characters by curing, as you know, right?
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah. Flavor profile
yeah,
can change over 6 months.
you're yeah, 6 months, 6 years. I just smoked some bud the other day that I grew 8 years ago, and it was
Wow.
still sticky. Like you could hold it to your finger and stick it like this.
Nice. How did it
Yeah,
smoke? Was it CBN heavy?
almost like a cigar. Like it had
Okay.
very brown tasting. But it was pleasant. Like you're not going to shock anybody with the fresh terps from it. But it has a character to smoke. Like it's nice if you're rolling a piece of hash or something and you want some, weed that's got I don't know, just a less bright character, something
Mhm,
a little more subdued. It's a weird thing, but a lot of people these days they don't want to smoke anything that's more than 3 weeks old. Whereas I still like to cure weed. I can appreciate it fresh too. Don't get me wrong. I can appreciate the bright fresh flavors and making live rosin and fresh frozen and whatnot. But on the other hand, I am totally down with saving some herb in jars to smoke later. And some of it I won't even look
Mm-hmm.
at for a year or two before I pull the jar. This was a
Nice.
jar here actually that I left it. And when it was on the halfway point, the weed was up to about here. I think it was on its side. And so there was like a big crust of resin on that one side just because it had sat there on its side in the fridge for this is from 2002, Amnesia Haze from 2002. And
Nice.
it's it's very rough, finger trimmed basically before I went in the jar. Is not going to win any beauty awards, but as far as just something to roll some hash with, as sort of a
Damn.
tobacco substitute, like a smoke all day weed that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't put the hurt on you. Some weed I'm gonna smoke is like, okay, I'm gonna sit down for half an hour with it. This one, it's like it's very functional.
And
It's
how
just
old is that
more
one,
of
you say?
that's 2002,
Wow.
and the same plant is right there.
Can't see it now. You have to say something, Steve, for us to see it. Oh no, did you break something? Can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes, there we go.
Oh, yeah, I just turned the computer sideways to see if you could see it, but out the window.
We saw
Anyway,
it a
sorry
little.
about that.
That's all
Okay,
good.
anyway, the same plant's growing out there, and I hadn't planned on planting it again this year, but I did grow it a few years in a row. But I'd given cuttings to a friend, and he brought me back some plant in the spring that was like knee high in the spring, gave me a head start. So I was happy to put it out again. It's really a workhorse. Off the one plant, you have this stuff in an 80-liter pot. It's probably a pound of weed.
Oh,
It's not
nice,
bad.
nice.
Yeah, it's roughly a pound of weed. I mean, it's not the latest and greatest. Sensi seeds in the early 90s. It's very reminiscent of that.
Oh
And I
yeah,
like that
nice.
amnesia haze fruit. While it's young, like the first half of its flowering time, it really has that good old Santa Marta Gold aroma. But
Hmm.
now that it's a little fatter and it's starting to change towards the end, it starts to show more of the northern lights. So it's obviously both, but it's a real easy to grow chunky plant that stands itself up, doesn't have any stakes holding it up or nets or anything. So it's just sort of a workhorse plant. I'd like to put it out and also just to see it comparatively to when the other ones finish, because I've had one of these out here more years than I haven't. I've got some pre-98 Bubba offspring that is nice. I had last year, I had the same cut out, and I really liked the hash from it. It made an absolute jet black hash with just a little bit of working. Like and some of the stuff you squish it and it stays kind of brown. You work it for a few minutes. It's basically it just stays kind of tan or brown.
Hmm.
This stuff just turned black quickly. And then it gave me that very satisfying black Afghani taste that has that
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, that's hard to come
somewhere
by
between
nowadays.
like leather and oil and chocolate. Yeah, nobody wants to see a midnight black hash today in the North American market. It's more of a how white is your rosin or how clear is your six star. And
Hmm.
it's more about getting the preservation of fresh flavors, and that's cool. And that's, like there are fresh white wines like that, people get it and drink it as fast as they can. Whereas there's other ones you want to sit on. It's not that one's right or wrong, they're just different styles and it's personal preference. But I can totally dig the fresh stuff, but I still appreciate the long cure stuff too, because it's very different. Or that Bubba Kush that makes that nice black so quickly. I really have a soft spot for proper black. Not everything makes a good proper black.
Hmm.
Anyway, I've got some Gorilla Glue out there and some peanut butter breath and some Triangle Kush crossed with Gelato 45. Somebody gave me that cut, and that one smells has a very intriguing smell too. Like the gelato comes through on it, I would say. But we'll see how she finishes.
How much longer left? Any time now? A couple of weeks?
Yeah, I usually let them go here till Halloween.
Hmm.
And for some of the sativas, I have one narrow leaf, narrow leaf dominant hybrid. This one is called Vanilla One Sunrise, and it's even behind the Amnesia Haze, and it's even taller, and it's has a little more Asian smell to it, I would say. But it's the furthest from being done. So like last year, I left some dog haze out where I maybe had cut the tops off the plant, but left the smalls until I think Valentine's. So it
Whoa.
went over the year. Like it was grown in 24 and harvested in 25. So I don't mind leaving some late because as long as they're not molding, who cares? They're just staying cold. Plus, if I bring them in, my freezer's already full of weed. I don't have room to put them in the freezer. So even if I cut it right now, I'd probably just hang it outside so it stays cool.
Hmm.
Just hang it in the shade and leave the leaves on it too to protect it. And there's
Yeah.
enough humidity out there that they don't dry out too fast. Whereas you bring it in the house when the heat's on, and they can dry out pretty, too fast. So I'd rather that they hung outside for a month than inside for a week. I don't mind the slow cure on it where it stays cold. Canada's got that going for it, where you can do a cold cure outside or just in a garage that's unheated or something. And that's also my thing for low tech, high grade dry shift is I just wait until it's like minus 14 outside Celsius. And
Hmm.
at minus 14, I find the resin glands, they just move through the screens like glass. Like it is, they're far apart from being sticky. There's
Hmm.
absolutely not clumping up or anything.
Yeah, it's
So
like
you
sand at
start
that point.
break,
Hmm.
yeah, I start breaking them up over the screens once it's really proper cold out, and I might just pick it and hang it outside for 2 or 3 weeks and then wait for it to get cold enough. Like if I go, well, usually by Christmas it's going to be cold enough. So if I've left them until December 1st, maybe I'll cut some then. And if December 20th it's super cold, that stuff's going to be dry enough to sift.
Mm-mm.
And it's funny just hanging it all in your backyard,
Yeah.
you know? It used to be like you gotta hang it, lock it up, like nobody take it. Now you
But
can't pay
yeah.
people to take your outdoor. No, nobody would take it. You know?
Yeah, but leaving it to dry for ages in the cold like that, that's gonna produce some high quality, tasty weed. That is.
Does keep the weed tasty when it doesn't get warm because the boiling points of terpenes, there's a range, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
even if you can smell the weed, it's because the terps are boiling off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hang it up in your basement and your basement smells like weed, it's because the terpenes are boiling off at the temperature of your basement. If I hang them off outside, you're still going to smell some, especially if it's warm out. If it's warm out, I probably wouldn't. But if it's 20 in the house and 10 outside, I'd rather hang them outside.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even I don't even have to worry too much about the sun if I haven't de-leafed them all yet. If they've got enough leaf, then the buds kind of protected from the sugar leaves all cocoon around the bud when you hang it upside down,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So they're not getting hit by direct sunlight in the bud itself, right? Even the
Mm-mm.
insides of the leaves aren't because they're inside. Anyway, it's just I'm so down with not trimming a bunch of weed. I would just rather grow
Mm-hmm.
it and dry it and hash it.
Mm.
And I love dry sift the best. It's just the least fuss and least muss. The only shit thing is you gotta wait till it's super cold to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I can bring it from the dry sift to do some static or to do some vacuuming. and they can get it really polished. But you know what I find is I generally am pretty gentle breaking it up. Like I don't really grind the weed. So when I take the weed off the top screen, it's still like it's broken up bud, but there's still resin on bud there. You know, like I haven't, grounded against the screen. I do a fairly light breaking up so that that stuff's still decent to use for something else. And I actually have just been giving it away to old people that like to make solves and they do smoke a bit too, but I give them like a pound of broken up buds and they're just like, oh, this is all frosty, it's all bud. I'm like, yeah, I've taken the cream of it, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
good. It's
Yeah,
like I've taken the cream. You can have all the milk, but I've taken the cream.
yeah.
But I don't care. I'd rather just skim the cream off it. I've got, for oil or like, say I had a medical issue or somebody in the family or I needed to take a gram of oil every day or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got enough to look after the family for decades, you know. If I
Mm-hmm.
could stay stoned for the rest of my life if I didn't care about new flavors, if I just needed to stay medicated for the rest of my life, I've got the supply already stashed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I just want to stay baked for the rest of my life, that's done. But if I want to keep testing new flavors or, making something fresh, then of course, I just love having the plants around too, right? Like I'm never
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
stop growing hobby weed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and if I don't need to stick pounds of weed in the fridge or freezer because there's already pounds of weed, I just now, every year I keep less. Like I just say, okay, well, I'll just keep a couple jars of tops from this one, and then I'll keep a couple jars of tops from this one, and then the rest of it's going into ash, So I'll still end up trimming just a couple ounces of jars, but I got to get through. Like I might. That's why I left this one out from 2022 because I'm like, there's not that much left in that. Because I had my kids don't puff anymore. They're in their 20s, so they're not like little kids, but they don't puff anymore. Some of their friends do. So their friends that puff come over. I'll just give them a handful. Be like, here, have a freaking bag to take with you, and they'll be like, 2 ounces of bud, man, thanks. They're
Yeah.
just so stoked,
Mm-hmm.
So
For
that if
those
I'm
who
away and
don't grow, it seems crazy, but for those who do grow, it's just a little bit of bud. It's
yeah,
just
it's just
weed, you
Yeah, it's
know.
just weed. Yeah. So I like to inspire them too to help people not think of it as $10 a gram, but just think of it as a handful of weed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's it's nice to be able to do it, and it's one of those merit building exercises. Hopefully, with any luck, it'll come back to you in good karma. If not, no big deal either.
Yeah,
To
as long as you enjoyed
save them
growing
some
it,
money.
that's the
Yeah,
important thing.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But man, it's been good chatting to you, as it always is, Steve. I always enjoy our
Thanks for
conversations, man.
having
You've
me, man.
always got good shit to say. It's always a pleasure. But man, it's
Thanks
good
for
to know that
having
you're
me.
still. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, anytime you want to come and chat, the room is open to you. Just let me know and we'll organize a chat. And as I say, you've always
Careful,
got good
man.
stuff to say.
It's always hard to shut me off sometimes. I get going and I just keep chatting. I make sure I get properly baked before we have these little chats, and then I get stoned and ramble on.
Man, next time we should crack open some of them whiskeys there. That'll be a good laugh.
Well, you're tempting
But,
me right now. You're tempting me.
yeah, well, I'm doing that whole sober October thing. There's like 12 guys over at the forum. We're doing sober October, so I can't drink. But usually whiskey is my thing. I'll not like to enjoy a couple of glasses of whiskey on the evening there. But
Never
not
heard of
today.
sober October. Heard
Oh
of a
right.
dry January.
Yeah, and
It all
sometimes they call it
sounds good.
Stoptober, where people stop smoking. I don't know. It just seemed like a good idea, you know.
I call it Croptober.
Mm-hmm.
Usually,
Mm-hmm.
usually taking some plants down, but I haven't taken these ones down till Halloween, so I don't really get much of. I've seen people call it Choptober too.
Yeah, yeah. We just changing the names of all the months.
All
But
right, well,
yeah,
really
man.
nice, Maggie. Have a
Yeah,
great one, man.
and you too, man. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find more about Breeder Steve before you go?
Yeah, I have a newsletter that comes out of breedersteve.com, and that'll point you in the direction of my other websites and projects and whatnot. So there's Breeders or Spice of Life Seeds, cannabis.com, spiceoflifecannabis.com, for verosense.com. You could also just remember certifiedseedless.com. And in Europe, the distribution's all going through Cementis seeds. And the US, it's all Stars and Stripes seeds. So that's, they have different availability. They're not all the same ones in both places, but those are sister sites I have with the same partners. But Stars and Stripes just covers the US and Cementis covers the UK.
Nice. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Check it out, everybody. And thanks again, Breeder Steve. We'll speak soon, mate. I appreciate your time.
likewise.
It's been a great
Thanks
chat, as
again. You
always.
guys, thanks for coming out, everybody.
Yes. Right, wave then, everybody. Goodbye, Steve. Thanks again, man.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. And there we go. I'll end the recording.
Recording stopped.
It's always good to chat with Steve. You know, he's just always got good things to say, and he just doesn't hold back. He gives us all the information he has. There's no gatekeeping or anything like that. He just lets us know anything we ask. Good guy. And thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us. It's been good to us. I think I've seen some new faces out there. There's Pip Jam. What's up, Pip Jam? God, it seems like haven't seen your name in the chat for ages, mate. Thanks for coming to join us. Yeah. What else? Who else? Zelinzi. I think that's a new name. I don't know about that one. I am weed. I'm skeptical. You know, are you really weed? You know, I've never seen weed type in chat before. My gosh. Yeah, man. Chilbert's out there as well. What's up, Chilbert? Yeah, good chat, man. Good. Oh, you always here lurking. Okay. Just never want to say hello. Is that what it is? Just hiding in the shadows, Pip Jam. Gosh, bro. Gosh. Make sure you say hello. It's good to know that you're out there, you know? But yeah, good chat, man. I enjoyed it. As always, you know, it's good to get Steve on. We'll do it again soon, I think. We'll get him on there. Glad you recorded it. Yes. Because that'll go out on Wednesday for the interview. You know, send that one out because not everybody's able to make it here. And as I said, we don't usually do these public as well. So, yeah. And Breed Steve in the chat there. Everybody say thanks to Breeder Steve. Nice one. Yeah, so, you know, some people can't make it. So this will go out as the interview on Wednesday, I think. And then, yeah, as we do interviews every Wednesday. Pretty much every Wednesday, you know. So if you want to check out more interviews, check us out on iTunes and Spotify and all of that. But most of the interviews like this on YouTube, they are just for the Patreons. Psilocybin Toba. I like that idea. Yeah, man. But no, I decided I'm not going to do no shrooms as well this month. Just no stimulants at all. You know, fucking hell. It's been wild as well. It makes you realise, and other guys on the forum, because I've stopped caffeine, sugar, cannabis, and alcohol. So, you know, just all of those things. Because one of them at a time is pretty much easy. I don't need to worry about that. I can stop any one of those anytime I like. But all four together, that's a bit of a challenge. And the whole sugar thing, it's been a huge challenge. It's ridiculous. Until you actually do this, until you try and stop consuming sugar, you just don't realize how much sugar is in everything. It's ridiculous. Just picked shrooms this month. I was gonna go out and take my dog, because there's a field near me that's famous for having liberty caps out there, and I was going to take my dogs for a walk there the other day. But I'm waiting for it to rain. After the day after it rains a lot, that's a good time to go out and pick shrooms because they usually grow over the night time. Then, so that's what I'm going to do. Next time it rains substantially over night time, then I'll go out and go and check out and see if I can find some liberty caps. I won't take them. It'd just be fun to find some. You know, I have plenty of my own Cubensis, so I don't need to go and pick any. You know what I'm saying? Yes, man. And again, not until November. And just to remind everybody as well, if you are Patreon, and we have the Patreon session of the last Friday of every month. But this month, the last Friday of the month is, in fact, Halloween on the 31st. And there's so many of us doing Sober October. None of us are going to be able to, you know, have a session. It's a session. We're supposed to get high and drunk and shit. So we're leaving it till the next day, the 1st of November, the first Saturday of the month. It will be this month only. And then we can all, you know, get back to smoking and drinking and have a proper session and be like, oh, God, that's refreshing. Gosh. Yeah, bro, quitting sugar is crazy. The microbiome is just not to crave, but the withdrawals are nuts. Yeah, the withdrawals have been crazy. A few of us on the forum, headaches and shit. It's crazy. And it's not just the sugar, the caffeine as well. Yeah, it's and I never consumed a lot of sugar anyway. But every morning I would get up and I would have a cup of coffee with 2 sugars. I mean, that's pretty much. I might drink 1 cup of coffee later on in the day, maybe, but usually I just have 1 cup of coffee with those 2 sugars. And then, I don't really. I've thought, well, I don't really consume a lot of sugar. It'll be okay. I don't have sugary treats and shit. I just don't enjoy too much sugar. But man, I enjoy Lipton iced tea. I can't even drink Lipton iced tea. It's got a ridiculous amount of sugar in. Obviously, any fizzy drinks are out the fucking. I used to take the piss like people drinking Budweiser Zero, Bud Zero, and it's got 0% alcohol in it. Well, I saw some in the shop the other day, and I was like, It has no alcohol and no sugar. I'm like, ooh, that might be better than water. So now in the mornings, I'm just drinking this tea. The missus found this lemon and ginger tea, 0 caffeine. So now I drink one of those in the morning. But damn, that ginger is spicy in the morning, But still, drinking a nice hot drink like that in the morning is definitely better than just drinking water all the fucking time, But it's good. I'm enjoying it. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I am enjoying the break. Craziness. But yeah, everybody get involved, Try and take a month off consuming one of your vices and see how it goes, It's good for you. Do it sometimes. And it makes you appreciate these things a little bit more as well, Because that was my aim. As I say, I like to drink the whiskey. I like to smoke the cannabis. Well, not smoke, put it in my vape. But, it's just always ready available to me. There's not a time where I'm like, oh, I don't have any, can't have any. It's always there. So I never really have to challenge myself to go through a period of abstinence. So, I don't know. It was time to just make sure that I can do a month without these things. It's good to test yourself. But anyway, I could sit here chatting shit all day. Yeah, enjoying complaining. Indeed. You have to enjoy it sometimes, But yes, good session. I'm gonna get back. I've got a Commodore 64 to clean. That's my mission now, to finish off the day, get that done. And yeah, man, Norm Macdonald, what a legend, had a joke about the party of substance that kill, heroin and coke, hanging out, talking to each other about sugar. This fucking Norm Macdonald is just a legend, isn't he? Fuck, that guy cracks me up, man. Yeah. Legend. I don't know if any of you are history buffs, but man, I love Norm Macdonald. He was so good. He was so good. Legendary. Well, anyway, yeah, as I keep on saying, let's get the fuck out of here, man. It's been a pleasure, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the interview. Maybe some new faces out there, maybe some new listeners. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. Share with friends if you like, and we'll catch you on, well, tomorrow. I'll send the Grow Guides out tomorrow on iTunes and Spotify, so keep an eye out for that. But if you are around on Sunday, we always go live on Sundays for the main show. That's at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, and on Monday morning for the Australian guys. So yeah, join us if you're free. It'd be good to see you over there. But for now, I'm just going to end the stream. I won't put the music on and all that malarkey, as I sometimes do. We'll just end it and say goodbye. It's been a pleasure, everybody, and thanks again to Breeder Steve. Goodbye, everybody. Stay high, stay safe. See you on the next one.